Well, for the people who have joined us, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning or good evening, depending where you're connecting from. So today is the second web conversation of the year, and we're going to be discussing friend or foe, walking the risk and opportunity high wire of AI in HR. Before we dive deep into this topic, I would like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. And if at any point you have questions, you can post them in the chat and we're going to address them throughout the session. So artificial intelligence or AI is one of the hottest topics in the tech policy world right now. AI is set to change many aspects of our life across sectors and geographies. And one area where it can majorly transform our life is the world of work. Indeed, automation and processes can increase productivity, create new opportunities for innovation and professional development, and foster greater diversity, equity, and inclusion in labor markets. But at the same time, it also gives rise to concerns about inequality and discrimination, security and privacy, working conditions, and the possible loss of a clear division between our work and private lives. So I'm joined here today by a great panel of experts, and I'm going to introduce them to you right now. So we have Dr. Roman Gil Albuquerque, partner at Sagardoy Abrogados, Leven van Nieuwenhuis, Chief Data Officer at House of HR, and Michael Whitmer, Chief Digital Officer at RGF Staffing and Chairman of the World Employment Confederation Digitalization Task Force. So we're going to start with you, Mike. Yes, I can see you on the screen now. Perfect. And you see this topic of AI being friend or foe in employment within our sector. What is your take? Is it really a friend? Is it really a foe? Or what is it in your opinion?
So thank you, Beatrice. As Beatrice said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're doing well. I did see, as people joined, a number of people that I know, so I'm happy to see you guys join and happy to spend some time with you today. I'll spend a few minutes, maybe 10 or so, giving my take on AI and AI in our staffing space. But over the next hour, my fellow presenters and I will probably create more questions than answers that we give to you. So the whole point, though, is to be provocative in your thinking, inspire you to dig deeper, want you to learn more, and hopefully we add a little value today. I know my colleagues today probably have some thoughts that are similar to mine, but most probably also have thoughts that are different perspectives, but that's certainly what we're here to discuss. So the title of our webinar, as Beatrice shared already, is AI, Friend or Foe? Well, what do you think? So Beatrice asked me that. I'll tell you in a second, but what do you think? Think about it for a second. And of course, the answer is there are no wrong answers, but the answer is both. So I think strongly that AI is friend or foe. More importantly, I actually think it's friend. I think there's all kinds of opportunity. The foe part of it is that we have to engage it, deliver it, execute it in a very responsible way. And by the way, I'm using two screens, so I have my slides to the left here. So if you see me looking to my left, I'm not ignoring, of course, the conversation. I'm just looking at the slides. But there's all kinds of opportunity in AI. I'll share some of my thoughts here in a moment. But we just have to be cautious about how we move forward, how we engage, and there are risk and legal aspects to it as well. As a lot of you know, in our space, there's already geographies putting requirements and laws in place to manage AI better. So hopefully everybody will leverage AI for positive outcomes, but we've already seen where it can be challenging, and the deep fakes that have now arisen from videos to pictures, voices, etc. So I'm sure we'll have to be on our toes in that area of AI as well, because if there's something good, there's always somebody wanting to make something bad out of it. So there's a lot of technologies that have come about over the years. And I get really skeptical when new technology comes and there's all this what we call silver bullet thinking, like it's going to solve every problem and be used to improve everything in our personal and work lives. But I don't think that's the case with AI. I think that's the case with AI in terms of the silver bullet thinking, but I don't know that it's the end all be all. It's certainly going to be valuable. It's certainly going to be something that I think is going to be one of the most impactful technology of all of our lives, meaning over the next 20 or 30 years. And so it's well worth our time and energy. But here again, it's been around for quite a long time. Machine learning, deep learning, natural language processing, all of these are concepts that have been around for a long time. And I always like to use these definitions for AI because it helps, in my mind, put things in a box. So right now, there's three, the way, the experts define AI, there's three main areas: narrow AI, general AI, and super AI. And we're only in narrow AI at this point. And what narrow AI means is basically AI used to solve a very specific problem, and it's AI that's trained on a very specific data set. So that data set has, been trained to teach the AI how to do a task or a function, and that algorithm can't be used for something else. If you're using AI for something else, you then have to train it on the data from that specific problem. So general AI is about bringing consciousness into the AI world, and the experts say that that's way down the road, maybe 2050, 2060, before we're seeing that, and then super AI beyond that. However, we all know technology moves in an exponential pace, so maybe we see Gen AI before 2050, but right now it's all about using AI to solve specific business problems. But it's been around forever. As you see on this timeline, there's way back in 1956, sort of the first reference to AI. And we've all used and been involved in using tooling and technologies that have leveraged AI. But of course, in 2019, when Microsoft invested in OpenAI, and then a couple years later, of course, OpenAI and ChatGPT exploded the AI arena and put it front and center for all of us. So that's why I think we're here today and why we're all so much focused on it. That timeline was just to share with you to let you know that it's been around a long time. We've been dealing with it forever, but I just think it's taking on a different form. And just some observations for me in staffing. I don't want to simplify it because it's not simple, but in its basic form, AI right now is really, I like to say, pattern matching, because it takes millions and millions and even trillions of data points to train these algorithms. It's just looking for repetition and patterns within that data, and then it can replicate, making decisions and taking actions based on that data. And it's really about agency. Where is that work performed in the algorithm? So AI is a form of automation. But not all automation is AI. And I think a lot of the technology vendors in our space today, they like to say that they're an AI tooling when really they may just be an automation tooling. So make sure you pay attention to that when you're engaging it. And then when you talk about the intersection of AI and HR, which is part of our topic today, there's a lot going on. In Europe, there's the EU AI Act, which is a way of the EU putting governance around AI and the use of AI. But at the same time, I think they also want to make sure that it's facilitated and given an opportunity to grow and create the most value. So I think that's a balance that's going to be a challenge for the EU. And unfortunately, I think that's become a little political as well in terms of that EU AI Act. But we'll see how it plays out in the next year or so. And it'll probably be similar to GDPR, and we'll engage it and we'll leverage it to the best of our abilities. But one thing I want to leave with you guys today as we go through this and thinking about is experimentation is key. Just jump in, start playing with it. I'm sure all of you have used ChatGPT and some of the other OpenAI tooling they've released, but also maybe Microsoft Copilots or Azure or other AI open source tools. So engage, experiment, and that's the best way to figure out how you're going to create value. This is just a quick slide. When you're deciding how you want to leverage AI in your environment, you got to look at real world examples and business problems you're trying to solve. You've got to look at those business drivers. What is the value you're trying to create? Can you action it, manage it? Is it feasible? And then, experiment with the possibility and look at the data. And also, something we've noticed as we've begun to get into AI, I think we kind of knew this, but it's relevant and clear once we got into it, is you've got to have clean data. Because, as I just mentioned, the key to AI is AI models and algorithms are trained on data and data sets. And if you don't have clean data, then you're going to train that AI algorithm in a bad way, and you're going to get results you don't expect. So make sure your data is clean before you start with it. This is a Gartner Opportunity Radar, it's called, but I adapted it a bit for our space. And there's an x-axis of everyday AI and game-changing AI, and there's a y-axis of focusing AI on your internal or focusing your AI on external. And I've plotted some areas in our space where I think AI fall on those two axes and where we're going to try to leverage it as we get into this game. I encourage you to do the same, do some analysis on your environment and try to identify where you think it's going to add most value. Here's some just very, very small examples of some of the tooling that we've already had for a few years that leverage AI. There's many, many more. Just wanted to share that to give reference if you've leveraged any of these tools. And then the last thing I want to share here is that there's all kinds of potential with AI. And this chart has also two axes. The x-axis is this technology, the platform and the way it's developed centralized, or is it decentralized? And is there a low barrier to entry or high barrier to entry? And you see some of those dark text, different technologies like cloud computing, mobile apps, social networking, operating systems, etc. And you see AI is up in the far right-hand corner because it's low barrier to entry, it's available everywhere, and the development is totally decentralized. So the potential for innovation is very vast, and that's why we'll see just things coming out at an exponential rate that we probably haven't seen with any other technology. And that's also why I think it's so exciting. So that was just some quick slides just to kind of set the scene. As I said, I want to make sure that everybody leaves this knowing they need to experiment and just jump in with both feet, do so responsibly. And always reach out to me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be glad to talk to anyone that may want to talk about this topic. Beatrice?
Well, thank you very much, Mike. I think that was a fantastic technical perspective that you just provided us. And indeed, you were just saying that AI can offer so many opportunities, especially when it comes to innovation. And you did mention one of the, I'll probably say, innovative legislations in Europe at the moment, which is the AI Act. So I would like now to ask a question to Roman, our lawyer in the group. And of course, we have several jurisdictions worldwide now trying to regulate the use of AI. Europe with the AI Act is just one of them, for example. So how can we move forward to regulate the use of AI without losing the possibility to innovate and also the human-centric approach, which is something that we really need at the moment. Oh, Roman, sorry, you're muted.
Of course, because if it was artificial intelligence, it would have demuted me. So
absolutely, but now you're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice, and thanks, Mike, for your great presentation. And I will move from there to what happens with employment, a bit from the legal perspective, and trying to have a transversal view, something which is useful to people involved in management of employment throughout the world. And the first thing is that what we have is narrow AI so far, and we'll see what happens. So this big fuss about HI substituting human work in a short term of time is not credible, is not feasible, and this has an effect regarding employment, which is it's not going to substitute workers, it's not going to substitute employees, but it's going to affect almost all employment, for sure. Now, the thing is, how will it do so? How far will that be the case, and how should we regulate in order to treat humans as humans and yet to incorporate this tool, which can be extremely useful, but also poses some challenges and even some threats, but also some opportunities, which can be, as I will try to give some examples. As MIT has explained in the reports regarding this matter, I like very much something they say, which is 3 things are going to happen at the same time regarding AI and employment, which is it will create employment, it will destroy employment or some job positions or some posts, and it will change almost every employment. So it's perhaps more useful than having this doomsday discussion whether machines are going to substitute human, to think more in terms of what are the specific tasks of every job, which is, of course, changing with technology. That's not a new thing. That's been happening for centuries. And imagine which of them can be done better with the help of AI, and which can be done better by humans, and how should we make them collaborate, or how should we incorporate? So it's not thinking about people, employees, or computers, but more on people and computers, or more people and artificial intelligence, to be specific. That's very in general. So not so much hype, not so much overstress, but be more focused. And let's go company by company, place by place, work by work, position by position, and see how should this relationship between employment and AI be regulated. And there are, and I think this is common for, I can imagine, for every country, at least three big pillars or 3 big parts of the employment relationship, which is going to be thoroughly affected by artificial intelligence. One is staffing or entrance into the employment relationship. The other is the development and the performance and the control of the employment relationship. And the third one is the exit from the employment relationship. And the 3 of them pose very, very relevant issues from the perspective of regulation. I know this should not be focused in Europe. Europe is just an example, and it's certainly the AI directive, which is not yet in place, but it can be interesting to consider. But this I give you as an example, has considered there is 3 aspects as high risk, all of them, because it affects human. But that's what happens with employment when there are humans. There are humans, and humans have rights. And they have intimacy, and they age, and they have beliefs, and they have data, which is very, very delicate. So how do we balance those? Regarding the first of these, very briefly, to give you some basic considerations about the risks we are facing and how perhaps to deal with them. The first one is, how do we use AI to select which people should be incorporated, should be hired by a company, by an employer in general? One of them is to ask for certain characteristics. And can we ask for any characteristics? That depends, of course, on every legislation and regulation on every country, but that's one first issue. Can we exclude people with certain illnesses? Perhaps we can in certain jobs, but not in others. Can we make a preference based on age, based on the disability, based on racial characteristics, based on belief? Again, the answer, even if it sounds, it's not no, it depends. Perhaps I want to hire, a priest for a church. It must be a member of the church. I don't know. But that's one issue, and that's one which is kind of deductive. What are the characteristics, and are they aligned with regulation? The other one is there is a tendency, and it has been used and has created problems, to say, well, I don't want to say what characteristics I want for an employment. I want to tell the systems, these are my best employees. They have this characteristic. Find me similar people. Well, that is inductive, but that again has created issues in some companies, because perhaps the diversity pool changes through time, and perhaps using those characteristics, you might hire more men than women, or more people of characteristics which are not anymore the people coming out of the schools, and it can be also an issue. So that's something, again, even it seems to be very transparent, it can create an issue. I just give it as an example. Issues of equality and non-discrimination are key here. Then the next one is the control and the direction of the activity once the employee is inside the organization. And that's, perhaps you have heard the expression, my boss is an algorithm. Well, that kind of thing. That creates many issues. One of them, which is very interesting, is regarding classification of persons rendering services through digital platforms, which are controlled basically by artificial intelligence. Even though if they are service providers, having access to those platforms to receive work and provide work, does it make them into employees? That's an issue which is also very relevant in many parts of the world. And it's something which is, in Europe, it's still, there is a big discussion, and European Union, has not been able to regulate it so far. And I don't think that any other parts of the world, or in general, in most parts of the world, is not something which is very clear-cut. And that's certainly an issue, because more and more people are going to be rendering services through digital platforms which are controlled by artificial intelligence. What's that? Should we need new regulations for that kind of rendering services? It's not certainly traditional employment, or is it? Which part it is, which part it is not. But then, once it's inside even of an employment relationship, what are the levels of control which are acceptable? This 1984 thing or nightmare, how far can the employees be controlled? And not just by cameras or by devices which listen to sounds or system of direct control, but also some interfaces which are more and more developed between the brain, or what the system imagines that your brain is doing, and the input that the employee is receiving. There is more and more discussion, and in the AI regulation, there is going to be a specific regulation about what's called neuro rights. Neuro rights. It sounds sci-fi, but it's not. It's the idea that the system learns a lot about you, and in a way may nudge your behavior, may try to make you do certain things, knowing your brain better, if I may use that expression, than you yourself do, and kind of try to control you or direct you in a certain way, which is arguable, whether that's real freedom or not, whether that's regulatory acceptable or not. How far can the system go when the system becomes very smart about knowing you and trying to get you to do things that without the system you perhaps would not do or would not always do? That's also a very interesting matter. Of course, there should be a regulation of how far that control can be used in order to take action regarding the employee evaluation, salary, remuneration, and how far the system check whether the employee is doing or not. And that also needs to be put in relationship with what in more and more legislation is called the right to disconnect. The right to disconnect. That's also another matter which must be regulatory considered. Then to talk of one of the, before going into the exiting the employment relationship, one interesting things is that these systems are already being used for very good purposes, which I think everyone will agree are useful and are worthy. For example, to control the level of somnolence of sleepiness of people driving lorries or driving trucks, for example. that is something which is already regulated, that it's a detector of fatigue, a detector of somnolence, and that I think is good for the drivers, for the rest of the drivers, for the security of everyone, for health and safety of everyone. And that's an example of a control system which can, and that system, of course, can control how the driving is going on, not only the hours, but how effective it is, and can help with security. The last one is how to decide on which people should exit an organization or an employer, and should leave. And that, of course, AI is going to help to have much more information and to be capable of making such decisions. But again, the criteria must be compliance with the regulations of every country. And it can be very complicated. Can you do strictly an objective evaluation of time work with relevance of illnesses or age, of even characteristics associated to gender, like parenting or giving birth or things like that? Again, we should be careful about that. Well, for example, the European regulation is proposing, or the forthcoming regulation, is that even though those systems may in general be used as far as they are not discriminatory or they don't go against regulation, there should always be a human who can be made accountable and to be asked to make a decision regarding the issues as they come by, that it can be discussed from the human perspective. And we go back again, the human perspective is not merely algorithmical, it's more complex than that. It has the ability to imagine and to face new things, which is not always based on past experience, which can be reduced to a formula. And basically that's where we are. I think with that, perhaps is enough to open a discussion or conversation, which I hope, and thank you very much for everyone to listen in and the ability to be here, the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Roman, thank you so much. You shed light on the different challenges from a legal perspective that we have at the moment in the regulation of the use of AI, both globally and a European level. And one thing that struck me, but it's also very important to remember, is that what we still need today is the collaboration between AI and human beings. So AI cannot work by itself at the moment. And I do think that in this panel here today, we have a great example how this collaboration can work. And I'm talking about Livin. Livin indeed has a business example, well, algorithmic examples that he would like to describe to us. So Livin, I'm gonna leave the floor to you and take us away.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everybody. I've recognized some names of people I saw in London at the Staffing Industry Analyst conference some months ago. And there I told a case, or I described a case we were working on. And that was the reason why they asked me to tell the same story here. So for those of you who were present, this will be kind of a story you already know. So of course, at House of HR, we do what you're all doing, I guess. We use AI to write vacancies. Everyone is using ChatGPT by now. We use a safe version, so it's on our own servers. That's okay. We use it for translations, of course. We use it for preparing interviews. We go a bit further. We also record interviews with a smartphone, and then our people have it transcribed using Whisper, and then the information gets parsed to our ATS systems all automatically. This is a bit beyond the basics, but still pretty basic. But we also have a tool, and I'm really enthusiastic about it. And I'll start from the beginning. I don't only work at House of HR, where I'm Chief Digital, but I only teach. I'm 1/5 of my time. I'm a guest lecturer at the University of Antwerp in Brussels and some other institutions. And each year, when my students graduate, they ask me, Lieven, what do you think? Do you think I should study an extra year? Do you think I should do an MBA, or should I study abroad? And then, of course, I ask them, yeah, but where would you like to be within 5 years and 10 years? What are your ambitions? And then we start talking, and then I use my gut feeling to try to give them some decent advice. But I thought we should be able to do this better. So I've been working on that for years. I tried to develop an algorithm to strictly big data to make an analysis of all those 10,000s and hundreds of thousands of resumes we have, and to figure out what decisions were crucial for a successful career. Because all my students economics and applied economics at university, they're all more or less intelligent people, but only some of them become CFO. So I wanted to know what made the difference. Why did some people become CFO and why didn't the others? And we needed big data, and we have big data. I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of CVs. We also scraped LinkedIn, and we anonymized the information, and we put it in a big database, and we start working on it. And it went pretty slowly. It was hard. It was difficult. But then, thanks to tools like ChatGPT, suddenly it became really easy to throw in a huge amount of data, a massive amount, and to try to figure out what points in a career were crucial, what made the difference. So now we have a predictive tool, and we can actually make a graphic. We can predict what decisions you have to make to end at a certain point. So concrete, when someone enters one of our offices, let's say an engineer, we can ask him, okay, where are you now? What is your resume? Okay, we can upload it. And then we can ask, where would you like to be within 10 years? I would like to become a chief maintenance at a big production company. Okay, great. And then we check it. We use the tool, and we can see, okay, to become successful, to become a chief maintenance engineer at a big company, you lack these skills and you lack this kind of experience. So it becomes a visual, it's a graphic tool, and you see a career path. But there's not one career path, there are several. So you say, okay, the fastest way probably is this path. Then you have to work for 3 years abroad, preferably in this company. You have to make sure your English is perfect and some other points. And maybe you should study this or that. And this is the shortest way. But if the person says, yeah, I can't really go abroad, there are different ways. So then we can eliminate the part of working abroad, and you see different routes. And there are always several routes, but only one route is the shortest. So this is for us a great tool to be able to capture the people from the moment they're about to graduate, because we offer career guidance, until the moment they retire. We can offer them a career path, and we can say, okay, when I talk to my students, 400 students are graduating this year within applied economics in Antwerp, and I show them, look, at this point, all 432 of you are sitting in front of me, and you have the same degree, you have the same background, you're all more or less 23 years old, and you are ambitious. But 50% of you will be standing there in 5 years, and only 10% of you will be standing a bit further. And 3% of you will become a CFO within 10 years. And now I can ask you, where should you start? And I can show it to them. If you want to become a CFO of a listed company, then you have 39% more chance of success to be successful if you start at the big 4 companies. And I can show them, if you start at Deloitte or KPMG or EY, then suddenly your chances to be very successful increase drastically. If you study abroad, if you do an MBA abroad, it will cost you a lot of money, but you'll make much more after 5 years. And everything is suddenly, we can show it to them. So they can start, we are making a tool out of this, some kind of, it's gamification. They can play with it. If I choose this path, how will I evolve? If I study French, if I do an MBA, it will cost me 30,000 euros, but on average, it will make me earn 1,500 euros more a month, etc. So this is the whole idea. We use lots of data to predict careers and to use it as a tool to keep people with us and to offer them a perspective, not to just one job, but to a whole career. Do you happen to have any questions about this? Because I've been talking fast, but I'm not sure if it was very clear.
No, Livin, I think that was very clear what you just described to us. But of course, I take the opportunity again to remind everyone that if you have questions to ask, you can write them in the chat and we will be able to address them in between the speakers or towards the end of the session. So now I know that Roman, you have to leave us very soon. So I would just like to ask you a very final question. It is a quick one, but not an easy one. So going back to the title of today's web conversation, since you've talked about many legal challenges that we have with regards to discrimination and characteristics, control, do you think AI in the HR services sector is a friend or a foe? Or it can be both?
Hmm. Well, just if even I will give you one detour regarding that answer. Very brief. It depends where you live. It depends where you live. How you perceive it. The truth is probably somewhere in between, and the answer is it depends. I'm a lawyer, and that's the answer for a lawyer. But to give you an example, in Asia, and very specifically in Japan, new technologies are seen in a more friendly way than in other parts of the world. They think it will help them. It will help them live better. It's an aging population, and they think that these tools, well used, will make their life. You see these nice Japanese robots. They always look nice and smiley, that kind of thing. Whereas in Europe, we tend to be perhaps a bit effect of fatigue, of overregulation. I don't know what, sometimes more scared. And I think in the US, they tend to say, well, this is what it is, let's deal with it. So it very much depends on how you see it. And that should try to put things in perspective, because there is a lot of subjective fears. I think it's good. I think it's going to help us. Eventually, it's going to take more burdensome tasks. And I think I've always thought that it's better to have more meaningful jobs. And, and if there is at one moment in society, they will do more things that we humans do, perhaps. The economist Keynes 100 years ago said that if technology advanced at a very well rate, eventually we could work less, do less, spend less time working, still be as rich, and the world would be a better place. I want to think that that's where we should aim. People in the past worked much more and live much worse. So I think technology, of course, it needs to be carefully regulated. There will be abuses, but it has always happened. At the beginning, there were cars and no codes of circulation, and people died. Many more people died in car accidents last century than they do now. Much more, because we have done intelligent regulation. Cars are faster, they do better, they are safer. I think this is the way to go with artificial intelligence. It should help to make our work more meaningful, more efficient, and things that can be done by machines, let them do it and let people live better lives. I don't know if I'm a bit too optimistic, but it's what I think. And it's also the history of technology in general. Of course, now you can kill more people more efficiently, but actually less people are being killed violently than ever before in history, even though we have a more lethal technology. And I hope that stays so, even though the threats are great. I think that with artificial intelligence, the same thing should be true if we humans deal with it properly. It should be a good thing. That's my impression.
Thank you, Roman. Yeah, a very comprehensive answer. Again, as a lawyer answer, like it's neither friend nor foe, it's something in the middle. But we appreciate everything that you said today at this web conversation. So of course, now if you have to run off, you can do so. And I'm going to turn, before opening the floor to questions, to Mike again. And Mike, you're now the chairman of the Digitalization Task Force at WEC. And last year, we created a list of ethical principles on the use of AI. And something that I've been noticing throughout this conversation is, once again, the interplay between humans, AI, and the fact that we still need humans, and we're still going to need them in the future for a while to keep developing AI and to use it. So you're a technical expert. So from a technical perspective, what do you think is the ethical use of AI? Do you have any examples from your industry, maybe? Do you have specific skills in mind that maybe people should develop in order to start using ethically AI? What is your opinion?
Yeah, thanks, Beatrice. The first thing I'll say is, in every sort of instance where we're leveraging AI, and Levin talked about it like writing job descriptions. We don't just let ChatGPT write job descriptions and immediately post them, to the internet, on the job boards, etc. We always have a human validate it. Because AI still, at this point, even though it's trained with millions and millions of data points, still has false positives, still has errors in its output. So right now, the intersection between AI and human is necessary. You have to validate, you have to review, you have to confirm everything that comes out of an AI algorithm. So, I mentioned early on in my talk, friend or foe, we've got to do it responsibly. That's part of the faux part. We've got to be responsible in our execution. So we've actually put policies in place in our organization for the use of AI, and I would call those guardrails. They're not a recipe to act an exact certain way, but they're guardrails to make sure when we are leveraging AI that we're not making hiring decisions without validating the inputs and outputs. We're not using it in a way where we're not paying attention to the end result. So using it with a human validation, I think, is key. As I also mentioned earlier, I don't want to repeat myself, but it's this important, making sure that the data sets that you train it on, Laban was talking about their career mapping solution, and they took, millions and millions of data points to train that thing to reference what an appropriate career path would be for a specific discipline. But you've got to make sure that data that you're loading into it is clean and accurate. Otherwise, you're going to get even worse results. So there's responsibility in how you configure and utilize the algorithms themselves. So I would say, to maybe more succinctly answer your question, always have a human validate your results. Put policies in place, but policies that are guardrails, not very specifics. Keep your data clean, so making sure you're feeding your algorithms with that clean data. And as I mentioned before, jump in, do it, try it, experiment, see where you get with it. And of course, to shout out to Roman, always have your risk and legal people involved in anything you're doing. Certainly in our industry, it's a must, which we do. I work very closely with our risk and legal team as we engage in the AI world. So those would be, sort of off the top of my head, 5 points to consider.
Thank you, Mike. Indeed, I think the regulatory aspect always goes parallel to the technical aspect as well, but also the human aspect, which is basically the third dimension of this big topic that we have. And well, Roman, I see your message in the chat, so it was
my pleasure, Johnny. I'm sorry, we have our board meeting and I have to go. So, but it was a pleasure being with you. And if there were any questions or anything I can help you with, I'll be happy to oblige. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Roman. A pleasure having had you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, in case you have some legal questions, you can email them to us, and we're gonna try to make sure that they reach Roman, because right here, then we have some technical experts, really. So I know it may be going a bit off the track, and unless anyone has any questions, which I don't see at the moment in the chat, I'm going to ask you, Leven, with the new algorithm that you created, have you seen, for example, an increase in the need to have digital skills, AI skills, in order to reach a certain job position? And I'm not talking about becoming a manager at a big company, but in general, do you see a big development on even just basic knowledge of AI or algorithm or digital skills in general for most of the job positions?
Well, you immediately pinpointed a flaw in our system because it's based on resumes. And since AI, generative AI, is so new, it's not a part of many resumes. So we always have to look to the past to predict the future, but there is no past yet. So this is something I'm sure AI is crucial for everyone. I tell my students, make sure you are better than the others in doing this and using this. But it's not something we can already pinpoint. We will be able to in a few years. If someone who has, for example, studied finance and he also knows how to use Python and how to use generative AI, will this impact his career in a positive way? I'm sure it will, but we'll be able to prove it, but it will take some time.
Yeah, Beatrice, one thing I wanted to add, I meant to say earlier is and Laban is kind of alluding to it, is prompt engineering, learning how to, if you're going to use something like an LLM and a chat GPT, learn how to prompt engineer. And that's going to be more of an art, I think, than a science. I mean, yes, it's a science, but it's going to turn into an art, really knowing what questions to ask and how to ask the questions of the algorithms, I think is going to be important. And I'm still trying to figure that out myself. So that's quite a game.
And I think this will be very important to our industry because now we mostly count on Google. And when people ask a question in Google, I'm looking for a job as a welder in Ghent, for example, they'll get some websites which will show them jobs for welders in Ghent. But Google offers websites, and then people can find an answer. Generative AI tools like ChatGPT, they don't offer websites, they offer the answer immediately. So we will have to make sure that our jobs will be shown as answers and will be part of it. And I've tested it with ChatGPT, with Copilot, with Gemini. I asked a question like, show me 5 jobs, or no, sorry, show me 5 companies which are paying better than average and have a great reputation and which are hiring engineers right now in Brussels. And if you ask it to Copilot, Copilot doesn't know. If you ask it at Gemini, Gemini gave a very decent answer. If you ask it to ChatGPT, it gave a great answer, but only with the GPT-4, which has access to internet immediately. Yeah, the free version doesn't. It only has access to it until I think September 2021 or something. But if you want it in real time, GPT-4 is doing a great job, and this is going to change our industry in a very big way, I feel, because we all depend on Indeed, for example. Indeed lives by Google, and if Google changes everything, or if Google is eliminated, then Indeed is too. So we need to take that into account.
Yeah, and Laban bringing up another point that triggered me. So we did some testing where we put the same prompt into MS Copilot, and then also just open source version of ChatGPT, the exact same question, which are both, by the way, based on the same algorithm, but of course trained with different data, and we got similar but different results. So that's the other thing, you know, it proves that the data is a key element to what the outcomes and results are going to be. So yeah, just it's very important, I think, to read as much about this, learn as much about this, understand what you're actually getting into at the same time that you're experimenting and trying.
Yeah, and I like what you say about experimenting. I really want our people, everyone, we're 5,500 people, to use it and to become familiar with it. And our company, and that's often a problem I feel with IT, is sometimes too protective, and they don't want to share it. What if people are going to use it in the wrong way? Explain them how to use it and make sure they don't. Yeah, make sure they don't share sensitive data. And if they share it, make sure it's on our own servers, etc. But you have to allow people to use it. I've seen clients of ours who decided to block ChatGPT, which is stupidity, if you ask me. Yeah. You have to make sure people experiment. That's the only way.
We want to share it.
What we understood today is that the main word is experimentation and innovation in AI as well. Yeah. And I think just to conclude what we've been saying so far, and I know it may be a very repetitive question, but you know, it's the title of the WEC conversation, so I'm going to ask it again, but this time to Lieven. In your opinion, and in a very brief answer, what do you think AI in employment is? Friend, foe, in between, don't know?
In the end, it will be a friend, but we'll have a few difficult years, and I'll explain myself briefly as you asked. According to McKinsey, the average white-collar function will be done in a 40% more efficient way, meaning we can work much more efficient. Our people will be able to work much more efficient, which is a great thing, but our clients will also work much more efficient, and this will result in, at certain departments, they'll need less people, and the first contracts they're going to eliminate are the flexible contracts, which is our business. So I feel at first we might experience some problems by AI, But as they always say, ChatGPT isn't going to take your job. People using ChatGPT are going to take your job. We just have to make sure that it's our people who are going to, who get the training and they're going to stay. So we're training everyone right now. We've got a professional studio. So we do lots of YouTube live trainings, not only for our own employees, but also for the people we put at our clients. And we want to make sure that everyone knows how to use it. Even some kind of a mason from Romania we put at work in the Netherlands. He has to know how to use ChatGPT to write, for example, a safety report in Dutch, something like that. And it helps. Even for the pure blue collar functions, it helps. So I'm very bullish on it. But we'll go through some difficult time, I feel, a few years, 2-3 max.
Well, thank you for your answer, Lieven. And I think today we managed to see 3 different levels of the use of AI. On a legal level, with the main challenges related to discrimination, the extent of control, and so on, but also the technical perspective, what it actually means for our sector, and the fact that we have opportunities so long as humans keep on working alongside AI. And we've seen it with Lieven's example. So I would like to thank Mike and Lieven so much. And before concluding the session, I'm not going to use AI, so don't worry about it. I'm going to use a technological tool which doesn't take your data or anything at all. It's completely anonymous. And you may have also seen it before, which is Lido. And I just wanted to ask you really a very quick feedback on the session that you've just taken part in. You just have to scan the QR code on the top left. There's going to be 3 questions, so I'm gonna have to move the slide myself before you can see the next question. But like, scan the QR code, please. Answer honestly. Again, we don't see names, so you can be as honest as you wish. And it's just very important to us to receive your feedback to improve maybe in the future and to see what we can do differently as well. So I see there's 10 people voting at the moment, which is a great thing. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Like, this technology, like, I need to improve on my digital skills. I think like some of you may still be giving the previous answering the previous question, but okay, feel free to answer also the second one. And I think maybe I skipped a few. Like, talking about developing skills really is something that I need to do. I don't even know if it's working now because it says 0 people, so I don't know if I have to go back. Well, it's going to be a mystery. Okay. AI in action, live example. Excellent. Don't know, which is also a great, honest answer. We appreciate it. More practical advice on how to use, okay, AI in day-to-day work, application AI to HR. Okay, so more practical examples. Excellent. Upskilling. This is great. We do have just, not to make you worry, a few great web conversations planned for the rest of the year. But of course, feedback is always good to see in which direction we could take. ESG, again, a very hot topic at the moment. I believe the number above says that there's 8 people typing. Updates on the AI Act, that will be interesting to us all. Posting of migrant workers inside the European Union, excellent. Use of off-the-shelf AI services, okay. I'm gonna give another 10 seconds maybe, and then if not, I'll try to see if we can also access the next question which I had on the screen, but it may not be possible. So, perfect. And that's it. I apologize for my poor technical abilities. As you can see, there was also a second question that I wish to ask you. but I think it's going to be for next time. And what I would like to leave you with today is a teaser of the next web conversation that we're going to have on the 28th of March. So we are going to be talking about the world's refugees crisis and what the HR services industry can do to help people forced from their home to find jobs and to rebuild their lives in their new places. So it's a very important topic. It's a mix between humanitarian topic and our industry. So it's a very clever and interesting one. And for now, all I can say is thank you all very much for joining us in this web conversation journey. Thank you again, Mike, and thank you again, Lieven, for your collaboration. You've been amazing, really.